Alrighty, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining this press call today. This call will be recorded and distributed widely. And we have Senator Murray, as well as some local food banks and farmers in Washington State who have been affected by Trump's recent cuts to local food programs. With that, I'm going to hit record. And now I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Senator Murray.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you to all for participating. You know, right now, some of the richest and most powerful men in the world are stealing food from our kids. Apparently, there is plenty of room in the budget for tax breaks that fork over billions of dollars to people who already have billions of dollars. But keeping kids fed, that's a bridge too far for Trump. Keeping food banks stocked, that's just too expensive. Investing in our farmers and our families, well, that's just not as important as padding Elon's pockets. Won't someone think of the poor billionaires? That's what Trump and Musk seem to be saying, at least. Because in the last month, they have canceled over $1.6 billion for programs that feed hungry kids and help farmers, including nearly $25 million that was heading to Washington State this year alone. Last month, the Trump administration made the sudden, senseless, and downright cruel decision to cut $660 million from LFS, that's the Local Food for Schools program, which schools and child care facilities rely on to purchase food from nearby farms. They cut $500 million from LFPA, that is the Local Food Purchase Assistance Program, which helps food banks buy nutritious local food for the communities that they serve. And $500 million from TFAP, that is the Emergency Food Assistance Program, which helps to get more food from farms to nearby food banks to people who are facing hunger. And on top of that, Trump's USDA also canceled this year's round of farm-to-school grants, which help schools develop and implement local food purchasing programs and school gardens. Look, these are federal dollars that I worked very hard to pass in a bipartisan way so we can fight hunger and keep our families fed. And these programs support American farmers by buying their products like cherries and raspberries and blueberries and other produce Washington State is known for, or nutritious salmon from local fishermen and meat from local farms. And I just want to talk for a minute about this because remember what else is happening right now. Trump is telling farmers they need to sell more of their products inside the U.S. because of his boneheaded tariffs, which, by the way, shows he doesn't have a clue because many of our top producers export up to 90% of their products. But then at the very same time, Trump is eliminating farmers' access to domestic markets by cutting important programs that help them sell locally. Make it make sense. It's almost as if their plan is to hammer farmers as hard as they can. And it is not just farmers getting hit. We're talking about food banks that serve seniors and parents, people struggling to make ends meet. Schools who rely on these programs to help feed their students so all of our kids are able to focus on their classes, not on a grumbling stomach. In Washington alone, the Local Food for Schools program helped feed 850,000 students. Now, school districts are having to make the painful decision to either keep participating in the program and pay full price for the local food they're supposed to be getting steep discounts on, or not participate at all. And we know that at least 23 of our school districts in Washington State have already withdrawn from the program next school year because they just don't have room in their budgets to make up for the shortfall that's now caused by Trump and Elon. And the way Trump and Musk are cutting these programs with maximum chaos isn't saving money. It is not, so much as it's threatening to waste food that was already ordered and leave families hungry. Truck deliveries were canceled without warning or reason and without any real plan to keep that food from rotting away. I mean, if you want to talk about waste, that is a real waste caused by Trump and Musk, and the cost for their incompetence is being paid by the kids who Trump is leaving to go hungry. Our president should not be pro-hunger. to billionaires should not be rewriting national hunger programs to essentially say to families, let them eat cake. Instead, we should be making common sense investments in our farmers and in our families and doing the basic, decent work of making sure kids and families do not go hungry. This is Government 101, literally bread and butter stuff. Well, as Elon and Trump continue doing everything they can to break our government, I am not going to let this funding fall through the cracks. Lifting up our voices, speaking up about what is at stake, that still matters and can still make a difference. And it is why we are doing this here today, to talk about what these programs actually mean for people and for our communities, to put these cuts in the spotlight, and to show just how devastating they are going to be for families in Washington State. So I'm really pleased to be joined today by some people who really have a very deep understanding of this. So let me first turn it over to Cal. He's with Partners Inland Northwest. Cal, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Senator Murray. Yes, so Partners Inland Northwest is the lead agency in Spokane County for several of the USDA, Washington State Department of Agriculture programs. LFPA that you mentioned is one of them, the Local Food Purchase Assistance Program. We serve about 27% of the households that get food in Spokane County, so about 3 million pounds. So we have, we handle a lot of it. The thing I wanted to just highlight is, the food insecurity is on a steady increase. Across Washington State, WSDA, their statistics show that from 2021 to 2024, the households that need help from a food bank have gone from 1 in 7 households to 1 in 4 households. So at least 25% of Washington State families need some kind of food assistance. And a joint study between Washington State University and University of Washington conducted over that same period of time, the last 4 years, shows that it could be as high as 50% of the households that have some level of food insecurity. And if you add kids to the household, that goes over 70% in some communities. So that is a massive need. Our agency, we serve about 300 households a day, and we've seen a 400% increase over the last 5 years. So nothing regarding hunger or food insecurity is going down. It's all going up. It's on a steady trajectory. And so really, we can't lose ground on the amount of food that is required for our county, and I know for our state and our nation. Our LFPA program, we use it to buy local beef, and we'll have expensed about $350,000 of LFPA by the end of June, and that equates to about 60,000 pounds of meat, which is 120 cows for Spokane County. So we're going to continue spending that is left in our contract through June, and then after July, those fundings have been cut. So going forward for the next calendar or the next fiscal year, then we don't anticipate having that funding to buy that local, which is an amazing thing, because one of the best things you can do to improve your health is buy local food. And so we've enjoyed those partnerships with our farms and with our ranches. I know that just one other quick thing, the emergency food assistance program that you mentioned, Senator Murray. So we don't manage that. Second Harvest manages that for Spokane County, but I think there was about $406,000 of canceled shipments for our county that, at least as of a couple of weeks ago, that's the number that I got from the state. And so, Second Harvest, they do 35, 40 million pounds of food a year, and they're our biggest donor as far as giving food to the food pantry network for Spokane County. And their TFAP is not a big portion of that. It's maybe 5%, but even a 5% reduction when we're experiencing a 60 or 70% growth in customers every year, is the wrong direction. So I think we'll turn it over to one of our partners in this business, to Haley with Dharma Ridge Farms.
Hello, thanks, Cal. My name's Haley Olson Wayland. I'm a farmer in Washington State. Our farm is located on the Olympic Peninsula in Quilcene, Washington. I operate the farm with my husband and my 3 adult kids, as well as a small crew. We've been in business since 2003. We've grown over the years from a small direct market garden, 1 acre to 5 acres, doing farmers markets and direct sales to our community through CSA. And then as the years grew on, we've been in business. This will be our 22nd season. Now we manage about 200 acres, and we grow between 80 and 100 acres of mixed vegetables. It's all USDA certified organic, and or what you call like a small to mid-size diversified vegetable operation. Over the last few years, we have seen a lot of growth in our sales to food banks, to schools. There's been a lot of streamlining that's been happening. And just this last season, we had our best sales ever. And just under 20% of our farm's gross sales came from sales to food banks. And that was spurred directly from the LFPA funds, piggybacking on funds that were already available within our state. And these added funds allowed the food banks, the schools, and some of the tribes to streamline what they were doing, invest in some infrastructure on their end, to make ordering a lot more streamlined and easy on the business end. So, for example, we were dealing with 2 agencies, and those agencies managed and distributed, they managed orders and distributed food to, up to 16 different food banks. So one of those agencies was the Kitsap County Food Bank Coalition. And in 2024 alone, we sold them 77,000 pounds of fresh produce from our farm alone. That's fresh, organic vegetables that they were able to order from us, and that we were able to directly deliver to the food bank for distribution to 8 different food banks with that the Kitsap County Food Bank Coalition serves. So that was a lot of fresh produce that was directly going to community members and their patrons. Another way that we saw that this program began to become more streamlined and efficient was that the food banks were able to customize their orders. It's my understanding that a lot of the food that food banks receive is not within their control what they receive. And this gave the food banks buying power so that they could purchase at wholesale prices the food that their patrons wanted, and the food that their patrons week to week were enjoying and eating. And it reduced food waste, because everything that's coming in are things that people directly want to eat and are taking home and eating. We got a lot of positive feedback from our partners that people were excited. People were happy to be getting fresh food. A lot of times they're receiving food that is second quality. And as a farmer, there's a big difference between second quality and seconds as far as sizing and shape goes. So for example, cucumbers are something that we grow on our farm. And when we sell those to our wholesale distribution companies that distribute to grocery stores, we need all number ones. We need all straight, beautiful cucumbers. We do not currently have a market for our number 2 cucumbers. I know orchardists have this issue with sizing of fruit and things like that. So having a direct market as a farmer for number 2 produce, not number 2 quality, but number 2 shape and size. It's high quality food, but a curved cucumber is just as good nutritionally as a straight cucumber, but our grocery stores don't see it that way and our consumers don't see it that way. So as a farmer, having a market for those number 2 vegetables and fruits is very valuable. And like I said, these sales were just under 20% of our gross sales in 2024. We were really excited about the possibilities for growth. We were seeing a lot of meetings and movement within our school districts, getting themselves set up to move towards scratch cooking. And then that is a first step that they need before they can order fresh produce from farms. They need to be able to receive it in their kitchens and cook it and prepare it for the kids. So that's already been in motion, and some of this extra funding has made that possible. And so as a farm business, we were really excited by the idea that we had an expanding local market. And in our industry, new markets are far and few between, for sure. The costs are rising, costs of production are rising. We heard about this funding cut right as we had already purchased all of our seeds. We made our plans for the upcoming season. We're farmers, we're adaptable. We know that things will change and our plans will change. And the economy has been very chaotic, which makes it hard to plan. We put these seeds in the ground and it's months before we harvest them, and we need to know where they're going. So losing these markets is a really big blow to us, right, as our costs are rising. We have a 12% increase in our wax box costs. We buy wax produce boxes, and due to tariffs on wood pulp coming in, we have a 12% increase on that, and it's just across the board. So this was a big blow to us, and it was actually a program that was working and that we saw growth in since COVID. And over the last 4 years, there's been a lot of efficient streamlining that's happened across all agencies to make this program and these relationships viable and productive, and it benefited us financially. Not to mention the fact that we just to one food bank group, and we sold to 2, we sold them over 77,000 pounds of fresh produce, and you times that by 2, that's a lot of produce that we were putting into our local counties: Jefferson County, Clallam County, Kitsap County, Island County, Thurston County. So I'll wrap it up by just saying that for people to have healthy, productive lives, they need access, and access to fresh food is the missing link for a lot of people, and they need consistent access to that fresh food. And we were providing that, and it was not only providing that access to our community members who needed the food, but it was also providing a direct new market for us as farmers. And it's devastating to lose that. So I'm going to pass it to Madeline from Skagit Food Hub. Thank you.
Thanks, Haley. Hi, my name is Madeline, and I'm the Food Access Manager at Community Action of Skagit County. At the Skagit Food Distribution Center, we're located in Cedro-Woolley, and we are the lead agency, similar to Cal, in Skagit, Island, and San Juan counties for food assistance programs that are run through the USDA in Washington State. So this includes TFAP and LFPA that we've been talking about today. We receive funding through our TFAP contract with the state that supports both our staffing and general operations. And so this allows us to receive the monthly shipments of commodity goods through TFAP. And we distribute those to 14 food pantries in 3 counties. So that's Skagit, Island, and San Juan. On average, these food pantries we work with receive 48,000 total client visits a month, which is about a third of the population that we're serving. And it equates to roughly 500 families a day. As of now, our TFAP commodities are at risk of being cut by a third due to TFAP CCC funding being under review. Some of those trucks that have been canceled, like Cal mentioned. This funding allows the state to purchase dry, frozen, and fresh commodities for us to distribute in our community. And on average, we receive 50,000 pounds of TFAP product each month. And so if the TFAP CCC is cut, we'll lose about 16,000 pounds of food for the 48,000 clients that our partner organizations are feeding each month. For the past couple of years, we've also had funding through the LFPA that has allowed us to purchase fresh food products from local producers and food businesses. So our current LFPA contract that began 2 years ago in July of 2023 and concludes this year in June, totaled about $133,000. All of those funds have gone to food purchases from 33 producers and food businesses in our area through Skagit, San Juan, Whatcom, and Snohomish counties. We've really prioritized purchasing as close to where we are as possible. So to date, with those funds, we've purchased about 44,000 pounds of fresh fruits and vegetables, dairy, frozen meat, and eggs, and have distributed those to our partner organizations. In the beginning of the year, we were under the impression that there would be another round of these funds starting in July of this year. However, we were recently notified, as Cal mentioned, by the USDA that this program has been terminated. While we still have funds to carry our purchasing through June, as of now, we will have no purchasing dollars come July. So everything we've done in the past 2 years will not continue. This will directly impact the food pantries who have been consistently receiving fresh products from us for the past 2 years. With the abundance of local purchasing funding we had last year, we actually decided to contract with local growers to specifically grow products for us to buy throughout the growing season. This was a huge opportunity for growers in their first or second seasons to have reliable sales throughout the season, and also ensured that we had a reliable supply of products for the food pantries we work with. So with the termination of the LFPA contract, we will not be able to do that again this year. Skagit, our county, has a strong and diverse agricultural community, and the LFPA has directly lifted that community while also lifting members of the community who are experiencing food insecurity. The loss of this program will certainly have profound negative impacts, including a loss of reliable fresh food for our food pantries and a loss in market opportunities, like Haley had mentioned, for local farmers. So without this funding, we'll decrease our purchasing that supports our partner organizations. It'll decrease our purchasing by about 2,000 pounds of fresh food a month, 24,000 pounds a year. This is valued at about $5,000 a month, $60,000 a year that we've been directly putting back into the community. So this funding has allowed us to boost the local economy and combat local hunger at the same time. And without it, our community is going to suffer. Purchasing from local farmers supports and boosts the local food economy, distributing that food to food pantries at no cost, boosts our hunger relief network, and ensures people stay fed with healthy and nutritious food. So just echoing what Cal and Haley said, that this program, you can really visibly see the impacts that it will have when it disappears. So thank you.
Naomi, I'm going to turn it back over to you to call on the press for questions, but I just want to thank all three of you. I mean, it just does not make any sense to me that Trump has cut off these grants. They help people get the nutritious food they need. They help our farmers in our communities. They help kids at school. And that just seems to me heartless, thoughtless, and economically a really bad decision. So I really appreciate all of you helping to highlight that. Naomi, I'll turn it back over to you to call on the press.
If any reporters would like to ask questions, we have some time to do that. So if you have a question, if you want to use the raise hand feature, so I can call on you, that would be great. And I will give folks a second to figure out that feature. But first we have a question from Karen Carter. Karen, do you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question and state your outlet? I'll just go ahead and ask Karen's question for her since I'm not sure she's able to unmute. This is from Karen with the Willapa Harbor Herald, and she asks, what is the plan moving forward to battle Trump's cuts?
Well, first of all, we have to highlight and have people understand what the impact of these cuts are. And then all of us need to raise our voices and say, this is not what we want from our country. We want to make sure that we are doing the right kinds of things to feed hungry people, to take care of kids and their nutrition. We are that kind of country. Raise your voice and tell people, and I'm going to be raising my voice here in Congress and continue to highlight what the local impacts are and to do everything I can to help here in Congress to make sure that we don't follow the president's path, that we fund these programs. But right now, he's the one with the pen and he's making the decisions. So we got to fight back.
All right, we have a couple minutes for some more questions. If anyone else has a question, you can use the raise hand feature so that I can call on you. If you're not able to figure out the raise hand feature, you can put a question in the chat, or you can go ahead and unmute yourself. So I'll just give folks a second to do that in case we have any other questions. We'll go to Sammy with KUOW.
Hi, thank you so much for doing this. This is Sammy West from KUOW. This is actually a question for Haley. I was hoping to hear a little bit more about your experience working with schools and selling your produce to them. I'm an education reporter, so that's why I'm asking it. I guess I'm curious, when did you start doing that? And I guess could you talk a little bit more about what it's meant to your business and your community as well?
Sure. We've sold to schools over the years, over our 22 years in business. We have on and off sold to schools, and it seems like there's been a lot of issues for schools in making this transition. And all of it has to do with funding. It has to do with the amount of money that they have in their budget to hire staff and purchase the equipment that they need to process fresh food. A lot of what schools are used to is, buying things that are prepackaged and ready to just throw in an oven or throw in a bowl. And so it's taking a lot of time, and there's a lot of variation.
All right, we'll see if this video can reset, but in the meantime, we do have opportunities for anyone else to ask questions. If anyone,
I know we lost her video, but I would just tell you what this program does is it allows schools and child care facilities to be able to purchase food from local farmers, so they can be providing much more nutritious, much more oriented towards their community, fresh fruit and vegetables like she was talking about. So the cuts to this program means that schools and child care centers won't get as nutritious as programs, and they'll have to buy bulk, as she said, for something you just stick in a microwave oven rather than giving our kids nutritious meals from farmers in their own community.
Thank you for that, Senator. Appreciate it.
We have time for one more question. If anyone else would like to ask one, feel free to unmute yourself and ask now. Great. I'll turn it over to Senator Murray to close us out.
All right. Well, thank you, all of you, for joining us. Obviously, we are going to continue to highlight the local impact of many of these cuts that we are seeing come down from the Trump administration. This one is particularly close to home to me, making sure that our young kids, whether they're in school or child care centers, our families who are really struggling, have the nutrition they need. It's good for them. It's good for our economy, and it's certainly good for our country to make sure that people have the kind of nutrition they need to be able to do all the things we need them to do in this country. So thank you.